What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. As I was searching for content for today's video, I'd realized I'd been covering a lot of newer coasters and decided it was time to take it back to the older ones. I actually find the older coasters more interesting than the newer ones sometimes, probably because of the mystery surrounding them. So, per request from an individual who asked to remain anonymous, today's coaster is one that claimed to be the world's first roller coaster that looks to have had one of the most interesting layouts I've ever seen for its time, and its design just looks downright weird too. Now, I will say it wasn't the world's oldest roller coaster, but it still has an interesting history and looks pretty bizarre. So what is it, and where did it come from? This is the story of Electric Park's Dazy Dazer. In February of 1909, Charles Skifferdecker, Hopland businessman and philanthropist, decided he'd had enough of his dairy farm and decided to construct a large amusement park. At the time, these parks were often known as electric parks instead of amusement parks, and were located in popular places sponsored by streetcar companies, electric utilities, and sometimes railroads. This one in Hopland, Missouri would be the largest project in the area and was set to open just less than a year later. And so, for Skifferdecker Park, Charles Skifferdecker chose to use a Moorish motif and had a 132-foot arch created over 4th Street to mark it. There were two 96-foot towers on either side of the entrance as well, and it looked spectacular to oncomers. Dance pavilions, an ice skating rink, lagoon with boating and swimming, and electric-powered rides were all part of this park, including a circle dip coaster known as the Dazy Dazer, which we'll talk about today. Dazy Dazer was a wooden coaster that opened with the park in 1909, and though there's very little media of it, lasted until 1916. At a cost of $10,000, it was powered entirely by electricity and utilized a sort of unique figure 8 layout alongside another, smaller coaster next to it that was essentially the same thing. That coaster was known as the Lover's Tub and opened and closed around the same time as the Dazy Dazer. Both ran on what today are considered traditional wooden rails and made up lengths of around 2,500 feet. Starting with an initial lift, the ride reached a max height of around 60 feet tall and started left into an initial turn before reversing and entering a slow helix. This helix led out to another turn which paralleled the lift and eventually wrapped back to the station where the ride came to a stop and the next set of riders could board. But its closure, in my opinion, is what makes it so interesting. By 1914, the park had been sold to what was essentially the city, and they planned to tear it down. But that wasn't until 1916 when the Dazy Dazer had experienced a number of different incidents, including an unverified death that resulted in it being, quote, a menace to society and, quote, unfit for further use. Some of these incidents involved a small fire, multiple reports of people jumping off the ride due to its slow nature, and an accident in which a man fell onto the track and was injured. And so it was demolished that same year, being replaced by flower beds and tennis courts. Apparently media of it was removed as well, so now the ride lives on through postcards and lore found in various places on the internet. If it were up to me, I probably would have saved at least something from the ride, but that's really it. So with all that said, there's a small and brief history on another weird and bizarre coaster, and I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to Try Hard Heavy, who provided some of the footage for you see here that was animated on Planet Coaster, and if you did like it, please feel free to like and subscribe to help us keep these videos up. But besides that, of course, stay tuned for yet another video coming in a couple days, and until then, we'll see you all there. See you.